Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'll break this down right quick. Number one, I want to give a shout out to S-Jock and Senor Conga for sending me those links. Senor Conga sent one to a YouTuber who put up a video to which I reacted already. But Senor Conga sent me another link to the same guy, and I noticed something different this time. Only Logical has a list, and he's not running out. This list is a list of divestors who meet a bad end. And the message being sent to me is, them white men are dangerous to black women if they get involved. They're not playing. Jerry Courtney Winters dated a guy named something Gerard Lewinsky. I forgot his first name. Gerard Lewinsky had a social media page and he had no indication of her, no links to her. He wasn't showing off his black woman, but she was showing off her white man. One day she found another woman in his phone. She slapped him and he choked her to death. Accountability Commentary rightfully said that one day Brad gets the same Keisha we do. And that's true. And Keisha's now fast learning that she's been hitting black men and getting away with it. And that's not going to work with other groups of men. They will not slap her back. They will choke her and kill her because in their eyes, how dare this black woman slap me, a white man? I'm doing her a favor even being with her. Now, the truth be told, if I was slapped, I probably would use serious violence, but that would be because of two things. Number one, it would be a reaction reflex, not because I'm just mean and nasty and I'm looking for an excuse. It's more like I would think that I'm under attack. So I would defend myself violently before I even have a chance to second guess what I'm doing. Number two, as a lighter skinned man, I have seen with my own two eyes that I will be hit before another guy gets hit. See, we get hit before, we'll get hit before an abundantly melanated brother would get hit, unless he's just small. And we get hit before a white guy would get hit. But eventually they'll hit that white dude. If they get too comfortable or get bored enough, they're going to do the same thing. And those guys ain't going to tolerate it. A white woman might hit them and maybe they slap her. Maybe they push her away. Maybe they just don't talk to her anymore and it's over. Black woman hits them, they're going to snap. To be honest with you, I myself have been conditioned, and I realize this, but my experiences, I myself have been conditioned. There are black men that don't want black women no more. And there are two traits in black women I don't want anymore, though I used to like them. I don't want the wide nose and the 4C hair. I might take one or the other, but definitely not both. Even I don't. Now, I'm married, so I'm off the market. If somebody doxed me and therefore was able to reach my wife and convince her to leave, shaming her, whatever the case was, whatever it took, and I found myself alone, best believe I'm not replacing her with a sister with both a wide nose and 4C head. It ain't going to happen. Regardless of a complexion, I'm not doing that. Because when I think back to it in my experience, they're the ones that have played the games. They're the ones that have swung. Various complexions, but boy, you get them two traits and they do the most down talking and with the sass. And so that's over for me. That wasn't true a few years ago. Now it is. I don't want to hear a damn thing out their mouth. You know how women will determine how much a man can raise his voice based on the size of his ding-a-ling if some more the comedian is correct. I mean, some more the comedian has talked about that before. She's like, if you got one of these, and she proceeds to dangle her forearm, and she say, you can ask, okay, where were you? But if you got one of these, and she proceeded to hold up two fingers right next to each other, she said, you better not ask nothing. Well, that's how a lot of sisters actually think. And I'm that same way about 4C hair and the wide nose. You got that, you better not say nothing. Don't even say, I love you. Too bad. Too late. Too little. So this can happen to me, and I'm close to 50. I realize that this can easily be imprinted into brothers that are younger. And I'm mentioning this for a reason. I now see telling them to date out as telling them to get killed. And I'm not going to tell someone to do this. So I'm putting out a disclaimer out right now. From now on, when I tell sisters that are complaining, when I tell them just date out, just marry out, I'm not saying do it so you can wind up dead. I'm saying try to do it because you're going to have a rough time. And if you do succeed, you're going to see how this man don't love you like that, don't rock with you like that. Watch how you're not on his social media, but he's on yours. Watch for these things. Accountability Commentary made that point. Eventually, Brad will get the same Keisha. And Dennis Sperling made a good point too, and that is that eventually we're going to get the same Becky, Karen, and Amber that Brad gets. And the one he gets is bad. Oh, it's real bad. But I'm also going to break down why it is that men who get drafted into the NFL, since sisters want to know what it is, why they wind up not only with non-black women, but specifically white women. I'm going to explain what that's about. In the rest of the world, football means what Americans call soccer. The sport, football, as we know it, is called American football when you leave the U.S. Now, I don't know how Canadians refer to soccer. I think they probably use both football and soccer in their references, but everybody else calls it football. When you were playing football as a kid, for one, you got to start at a young age to be good enough to make any kind of draft. You start, when I say a young age, I mean you start in the single digits. That's what it takes. You start off with football in the single digits. Same with basketball, especially if you're going to become a professional at it. You do it from childhood. It's not something you're going to pick up later on. When I remember being young, and for me, the thing is languages. And I remember for sisters, my ability with languages was a problem. I'd hear about, some women being turned on by hearing another language spoken to them, but sisters, it was like if they heard me talking to somebody else, the hell's wrong with him? It was bad. And brothers would follow that to a certain extent. Now, I wasn't trying to get with brothers. What I'm saying is that brothers took the same notion that you less of a man because your thing is language. I hate to say this, but number one, sisters push away black men who exercise any sort of self-discipline. And while high school athletes, when I was growing up, did darn near have their pick of women, I've noticed that things must really be more toxic now because these high school athletes that are black don't necessarily have their like I said, brothers generally prefer sisters. How come these brothers don't have their pick of black women? It's because if they are actually serious about the sport, sisters don't want them because that means they have to spend time, exercise self-discipline. Sisters don't like when brothers do that. When sisters say we're going to wait at the finish line, they mean that. Now, white men have complained about white women doing the same thing, waiting at the finish line, saying, I'm waiting at the finish line to F the winner. So they have the same thing. But what I've noticed, and I've talked about this before, is that the white woman is nicer to brothers. And the sister, of course, drops all standards for Zaddy. I've talked about this previously, and this leads me to something that Dennis Sperling said, and I do agree with it. There's nothing for us to brag about being able to attract each other's women because they're both Western women. And Western women in general are trash. I'm going to tell you sisters are worse now. I pretty much made a decision at this point. Yeah, I can tell sisters are worse because of how they ended up, because of the results. That I can tell you, because while that white woman stood up and said, I'm going to invest in him, and she really seems to be interested, at least in brothers, she's going to lose interest later on. But she got to get bored first, and then she goes into that long game. But that's Becky. Boom Chica and Bonquisha got her mind made up. I'm not investing nothing at all. Zaddy, I'm not investing in Zaddy, but he ain't got to make nothing either. He ain't got to become nothing. That's the difference. But that's not why I was recording this. I was recording this to tell you that, you know what? These brothers that are really becoming good enough to be drafted into the NFL have been practicing, like I said, for years. They actually miss out on a lot of what's going on in the rest of the world. They don't know about Passport Bros, SYSBM, IBMOR. They don't know about any of the BMPTs. They don't know. So to a certain extent, I get it. They find out about this when they finally get a little free time, which may not really be until they're adults in the NFL during an off season. It might be the first time they find out about these things. These guys, also probably come from areas where you don't really have a whole lot of non-black, non-white women. And we already know sisters across the United States ain't investing in nobody, ain't investing nothing in nobody, ain't building nothing. They know you come to me ready-made. That's what they're saying. They're bragging about it. Shira Seven talks about that. And don't give nothing, don't bring nothing to no table, baby. And she openly brags about that. What does this tell you? Darknesses. These women that you see complaining because these NFL draft picks are with white women are right about one thing, and that is that they're with white women. I've stated that they're still Western. They just need a little longer to get bored if you're black. I've stated that before. But these also are guys who don't necessarily have but two options, white or black. And we already know, like I said, sisters sit up and say, I don't want to hear about your dreams. I don't want to hear about your ambitions. Drop a bag. Right now. Today. Yesterday. That's what they do. And I'm going to sit up and I'm going to tell y'all, man, look, ain't nothing you could do for sisters. So to you brothers that are athletically talented, you're being pursued by that white woman, and you don't live in a place where there are a bunch of non-white, non-black women. And if you did, they're also Western. If that's where you are, I'm going to tell you now at this point. I'm going to explain to you. She's probably going to be a bad option once she becomes bored. That Becky is. But that sister's still worse. That sister is going to cheat. You can be athletic. Nothing in the world is going to stop her from cheating. except herself and a fear of God if she really has one. Nothing else will stop her from cheating. She certainly will not stop herself from it. I know I just said except herself and the fear of God. You know what? She ain't going to stop herself. So that leaves pretty much nothing other than the fear of God. Some outside force is going to be what it takes to stop her. You will be cheated on. And it could happen to Russell Wilson. I mean, you know, his wife, he was the black buck to her, but she still cheated. And Russell did the right thing, and he still does not have the option to not be stepdad before he's dad. He didn't have that option. Granted, they live in Hollywood. Things are different for them. They live in a different world, but we already know that even with him living in that world, that should have meant that he had options. He thought God told him, be a stepdad. That's what he thought. And now she'll never stop embarrassing him. Now, will they make each other some money? Maybe, but she's not going to stop embarrassing him if he can feel embarrassment. That's not going away. It never is. She ain't going to put no clothes on in public, stop twerking in public, unless something distracts her. Doesn't matter how many years have gone by since she last went out half naked or twerked on a camera. None of that matters. None of that makes a bit of difference. How many years have gone by since then? No, doesn't make a difference because you know what? She did it on camera. And she's never come out and said, you know what? I'm too old for this. I've been too old for that. I shouldn't have done that. And he doesn't deserve it. She's never done that. She knows if she did, the sisterhood will go after her. That's another thing. To you who are athletically inclined and gifted, you need to realize that one of the other things is that she's not even allowed. No black woman's allowed to pretend to be decent until she clears that with her sisterhood first. She has to have a private meeting with them in a hair salon talking trash about you. She has to explain to them that she just using you, and therefore that's why she being good to you. Because if she just starts being good to you and really respecting you and doesn't get their permission to do that, then she's considered a traitor and a pick-me bitch, and they're going to fight her. In order to justify that, stop and think about this, to justify her being good to you, justify that, she has to tell them what kind of ain't shit, whack dick nigga you are first. That means they hate you. And she belongs to the sisterhood that hates you. And that's one of the things that makes her worse even than Becky. And notice I never tell you Becky or Karen or Amber is really good for you in the long run. But I'm telling you that sister's still worse. I had to stop and think about this. How is it that Becky and Karen and Amber, who have a reputation for getting us hung and lynched all these years, right after what Grace Jabari, who's only really half white herself, did to Jonathan Majors. Right after that, how is it that you still see this? It's really plain and simple. Sisters can ask the question, but now I'm going to say this to you sisters that want to ask this question. How the hell can women with that kind of reputation win against you? You refuse to compete. That's all it is. Girl, I ain't doing nothing for no man. See, to us, Shira 7 is just the vocalization of what many of us see from many of you. She just says it outright. And she's into witchcraft and tarot cards and casting spells and all this other stuff. That's who Shira 7 is. But since you want to let her represent you, and you do let her represent you, you let her decide. Since that's what you want to do, you lose. Because it's a race. You want the prize is at the end of a competition. And since we men have to reach our finish lines to qualify, you must understand that you must also do some things to qualify. And you sitting up and saying, I don't qualify. I'm a woman. I'm already qualified. I got ass and titties. And then got the nerve to tell men who get operations to get ass and titties and cut their junk off that they're equally qualified with you. And got the nerve to even sit up and say to men, if you ain't going to give these used to be men, artificial versions of us women a chance, you wrong. You got a phobia. You got the nerve to do that. But then when a man is straight and you don't like something he does or says, then you want to sit up and call him 9AY. You want to promote that lifestyle to the community and then turn around and use that lifestyle as an epithet for the straight men that don't live it. I cannot forgive y'all for the treachery, and I'm not the only one. These young brothers that you see, sisters, keep this in mind. I, close to 50, like I said, I don't want your wide noses and your 4C hair no more. Those are two things I've now been conditioned late in life to not be able to tolerate in a woman trying to get at me. Don't want it. You're going to step off with that mess. And that's kind of bad because maybe a West African sister who's traditional comes at me with that. But I'm like, nope, nose too wide and your head, nope, you're going to have to pick one. You can't bring both. Mind you, this is me. These young brothers have grown up with your increased toxicity. These young brothers are not even 20 a lot of times. And what I dealt with, a lot of the stuff I remember, my first bad memories of y'all are from 30 years ago and some change. And you've increased in toxicity and nastiness and hatred. So these young brothers have grown up, been raised in environments with worse than what I've had to face. Yes, absolutely. You got these brothers that even though they still start off with preferences for you, they must quickly unlearn them. Because as much as you can sit up and talk about self-hatred, they would have to hate themselves to keep on preferring you over women that love them, or at least that seem to love them. They would damn sure have to hate themselves to prefer you over women that prefer them more than you prefer them. And that wide chick right now is sitting up there investing into him and pouring into him, and that man is in his teens. How's he supposed to know all the long games that are going to last longer than the life that he has already lived at that point? He can know if somebody advises him, but who gonna tell him? Without you interfering and jumping in and trying to give your little spiel. Oh no, you were made for the black woman. No, you were made for the black man. And look how you've been acting. To the point that everybody else can't stand y'all. And when you do step out, you get the rejects. And then they turn around and do you in and dismember you in quantities enough for a YouTuber named Only Logical to never run out of new content. All he has to do is just wait for the next one. He finds out about it, makes a video, types it in, AI narrates, he's good. Next. And you're not learning from this. There shouldn't be any more swirlers and divestors running into Zaddy's arms. Y'all should be like, well, if we tired of black men, let's see what the Southeast Asian man. What about the Afro-Latino? You should be looking at these folks. No, you only want to get with a man from the continent when he's super successful, and then you leave him, or he gets rid of you because you can't obey. You only want to use the men in the Caribbean and in Gambia. You drop all standards for them as long as they got that bamboo. And everybody sees you. Everybody knows this. And then they look at the black man from North America and from the UK, and they see that he's got to have everything to qualify for you. And you sit up and talk about, I need a man that can handle me. You sit up and the world is watching you tell black men that you need a man that can handle you like a wild animal. You deserve to sit back and watch these men with these that are being drafted into the NFL have not only not you on their arm, but the woman you can't stand seeing with him. That's what you deserve. My only regret is these brothers didn't have options oftentimes to get somebody else. That's why I say we need to make we black men need to turn around and make the next generation or conceive the next generation of black men with Southeast Asian mothers. You want to preserve the complexion? Fine, Cambodia. Because we don't have a map of which parts of Africa are traditional and which ones are not yet. I know of some places that are going thanks to you, sis. So I can't rightly recommend the continent just yet. I saw what Alston had to go through. And I believe with Travel Time, what Paul said about that lady Kisa. You got this woman, Keep Africa Passport Bros Free. That's the name of her channel. All she does is go in on Austin and maybe Floyd. That's all she does. Okay, foot the wuck, man. Few subscribers, a whole bunch of views. So you even got sisters back on the home continent now jumping on this bandwagon. Every year they get worse than they used to be. 5 years from now, most of the continent will probably be as bad as you, sis. Men have a soft guy era, and it's mostly just a spoof to show you how stupid and ridiculous you sound, and you all get mad and get up and start having a fit about it. Can't even realize it's satire the whole time. The only thing wrong with it is that it's a satire and that it never started at being serious. No, you've been so bad to black men, you deserve to now have to do more than other women to get the same man. And the ones of you that didn't, the ones of you that weren't in on it were silent about it. And some of you have even written and said, well, the reason we're silent about it is because these women might actually harm us. So we're going to protect ourselves and our kids. How you got kids? You ain't got no man because you can't compete or because you've been silenced into not competing. If the hyena bitches are silencing you when they're not competing, then how the hell you got kids to protect and you ain't getting no man? Where are these kids coming from? You see? And we got to go dig. We're going to deal with sisters. We got to go digging through a whole bunch of stuff to find one that might like us. And even then, if she's going to actually like us back, chances are she's not going to look the part. So that means that black women have a culture of refusing to like men if they look the part that men like women to look at all. That's what that means. So y'all just want to get a BBL so you can treat men worse than what you already treating them? Is that it? Other groups, even if women that have good looks have standards, and generally speaking, in other cultures, good looks in a woman are not a license to act a damn fool and be a B word. Y'all are the ones that have that. If I look nice, I'm gonna act a fool. She was 7 old, and look what kind of fool she's acting, and telling y'all to act even worse than her. Yet all these women, when you really start digging into their lives in real life, that's not even going to work for them. Beyonce talking about all my single ladies talking about being independent and I need a soldier. She got a billionaire, but that life ain't that. But she doesn't have that billionaire husband because of what she sings about. She just sang that for you. You have this culture where you just are so into telling men off in front of your girls. That becomes the pinnacle. And you're so obsessed with that you have set yourself up for exactly what the hell you can't stand right now. Drink it. You deserve it. I'll tell these brothers to go and replace that white woman with somebody else, but it ain't going to be you. You can fuck the shuck up about this. You done already dealt your play. Brothers, hope that what I said helps. Thanks for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. And of course, thank y'all for flying with me here on Jet Black Airways, with Jet Black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with me till the wings and the wheels fall off. And before I say my last spiel, let me ask a question to Richie Mack of Zoom to Thailand, Average Man Unplugged. I got a question for you too. You all advertise the Passport Bros app. I'm on it. Black Mind, one word, no spaces. Fare the Wucker YouTube. Been looking for y'all on it. I can't find y'all. All right, that being said, thank y'all. I'm out. Gender justice forever.